Let's find out how you can maximize monetization and retention for your recurring revenue business. We'll walk through why subscription is so hard, outline a few common strategies and subscription models for setting your price, and explain why value-based pricing is your only pricing model choice. What is subscription pricing? In the subscription-based pricing model, customers pay on a regular basis for a service or a product. Subscription pricing is different than pricing for traditional products, as pricing is often based on the length of the subscription, making longer subscriptions the cheapest options. What companies get wrong about subscription pricing? Deciding how much to charge your customers shouldn't be taken lightly, and yet many companies simply don't give it enough thought. In fact, companies spend an average of only 10 hours each on their pricing. This happens for several reasons, such as pressure to acquire new customers instead of optimizing the value of those they already have, a lack of knowledge of how to price, failure to invest in collecting consumer data, and many more. But even if you spend double that amount of time on your pricing strategy, if you're not also avoiding the following mistakes, you could be charging less than you should. Basing pricing on instinct or gut feel over data. When you're starting out, you might look to competitors' pricing strategies, or worse, you might just guess where your subscription pricing should start. But as you begin quantifying your ideal customers, you'll understand what they truly value in your product or service and what they're willing to pay for it. Data needs to be at the heart of every pricing decision you make. Failing to base your subscription pricing on hard data could lead you to overprice or underprice your product or service. Overlooking a core revenue driver. Companies spend countless hours improving their product, tweaking their positioning, and acquiring new customers. Yet most subscription companies spend precious little time thinking about their pricing. We studied a slew of blog posts on growth and found that only 1 in 10 blogs were actually about pricing. Fixed versus flat rate pricing models. Fixed pricing stays simple. A single product, a fixed set of features, a fixed price per month. Flat rate pricing is easier to communicate and it's easier to sell. Adding valuable features, raise your rate. Additional products, the fixed price goes on top of your base fixed price. But while flat rate subscription pricing might be easy for potential customers to understand, it often means leaving money on the table. Keeping prices low means missing out on additional revenue from larger companies, and vice versa, smaller companies might be priced out of higher cost tools. Second, tiered pricing models. Tiered pricing allows companies to offer multiple packages with different features and product combinations available at different price points. The number of packages can vary, but most subscription companies offer 2 or 3 pricing tiers. Social media management tool, Sprout Social, designs their tiers around the needs of different customers, whether they're professionals who need essential tools or companies looking for advanced tools at scale. By catering to multiple buyer personas at multiple price points, Sprout Social is able to maximize how much revenue they can expect from different customers, while also providing an easy upsell opportunity as companies outgrow each tier. Third, per unit, per user model. Per user pricing is the go-to model for the majority of subscription companies. Pricing scales evenly along the number of users. So the more users, the more you can charge. Per user pricing is easy for potential buyers to understand, simplifying the sales process. It also makes forecasting revenue straightforward since revenue scales in direction proportioned to the number of users. Charging for each new user does have downsides though. It doesn't reflect the true value of your products. More seats doesn't necessarily make the product more valuable for users. Charging per seat can also lead to users sharing logins across teams, cutting into your potential revenue. Option 4. Usage model. Usage-based pricing is somewhat less common among SaaS businesses. It is mainly used by telecommunications companies and IT services. Users are charged based on how much of a product or service they consume. That is, download 4 gigabytes of data in a month, and you'll be charged for exactly 4 gigabytes. Download 5 next month, you'll be charged more. What to consider when choosing a pricing model. Different situations call for different pricing models. Ask yourself these questions when choosing a pricing model for your recurring revenue business. What are your fixed and variable costs? Your subscription pricing needs to count for all of your costs, both fixed and variable. First, work out how much it costs you to deliver the base value to your customer. This includes all your operating costs like payroll and benefits, office space, hosting fees, software and tools, merchant fees, and taxes. Next, add in any variable costs like advertising fees, travel, contract labor, and other miscellaneous services. These operating costs should be averaged across the total number of customers, giving you an absolute baseline that you must charge each customer to break even. Make sure your pricing is high enough to achieve healthy margins, or your business won't be sustainable. Who are your customers? Are your customers using your software for business or leisure? Do they prefer paying up front or spreading payments over time? Do they value simplicity or choice when making product or service decisions? How much are they willing and able to spend on your product or service? Understanding your customer segments helps define which pricing model you choose and how much you charge. Customers who value simplicity might prefer a fixed or tiered pricing scheme over a usage-based one, for example. Match each tier's pricing and feature set to your primary customer segments, instead of simply choosing tiers based on which features you want to include. 3 popular pricing strategies. Your pricing model provides the framework for how you're going to charge your customers for your product or service, but it doesn't cover how much you'll actually be charging. For that, you'll need to define a pricing strategy. Most subscription companies don't put enough thought into their pricing strategy, often picking numbers out of thin air. But defining a pricing strategy that maximizes revenues takes more than just going with your gut. First, let's consider cost-plus pricing. Cost-plus pricing is the most simple approach to setting your prices. Sum up all the fixed and variable costs of doing a business at a certain percentage margin, around 20%, and set that as the price of your product. This strategy requires very little market research, assuming that you have a handle on your costs, and it's easy to work out your price. You're also guaranteed that you're going to be covering all of your costs. Or consider competitor-based pricing. Competitor-based pricing involves looking at all the prices set by competing businesses in the same sector, raising your prices or perhaps discounting a little to account for the value of your product, and then adopting those prices for your own business. This can be a reasonable approach for companies starting out with a new product or moving into a new industry. You're unsure of the initial value of your products or services, and you don't want to completely miss your target, so you're looking at what everybody else is doing. Third, you could consider value-based pricing. Instead of looking inward to your own company costs or laterally towards your competitors' pricing, value-based pricing looks outward towards the people who ultimately decide the right price for your product, your customers. Value-based pricing utilizes consumer data for overall value of your product, as well as breakdowns of the relative value of individual features to set your pricing. This means getting out of the office and doing the hard work of asking customers what they'll actually pay for your product or service. Tying price to value also incentivizes you to provide more value by developing new features and improving your service. Now let's consider the 5 tips to a killer subscription pricing strategy. Even after you've chosen a subscription pricing model and a strategy for setting your prices, there's still room to enhance your pricing. Strategies like freemiums, upselling and cross-selling, and tiered packages can all squeeze a little bit more from your pricing. Use these quick tips to help optimize your pricing and maximize your profits. Go freemium. Freemium tiers and free trials both give potential buyers a chance to try your product before they buy. But keep in mind, the freemium model is a customer acquisition model, not a revenue methodology. We've been saying this for the better part of a decade because too many people think freemium will somehow unlock their pricing when in reality, it's an extremely difficult path to widening the top of your funnel to a flood of prime leads. And a free trial just won't come close to the effectiveness when it's done right. Secondly, give users multiple tiers. We've covered this a little bit earlier, but it's worth repeating here. Giving users multiple options when signing up for your product or service might sound basic, but many companies only offer 2 tiers, cheap and useless, or expensive and overpowered, neither of which is remotely valuable to buyers. If you're using a tiered pricing model, make sure that your offerings match your users' needs, not your own. Third, if your resources are being drained, try a usage model. It's nearly impossible to predict how many resources each customer will use in any given month in some cases. If you discover your resource demands are frequently exceeding your expectations, try charging based on usage instead of fixing your price. Giving customers the ability to pay only for what they actually use can help you recover costs easier than increasing pricing across the board. Fourth, upsell and cross-sell when needed. Giving customers the ability to upgrade their accounts as they grow can help you grow your customer lifetime value. Look for add-ons that either increase revenue or retention or both, and satisfy the upgrade needs of at least 30% of your customer base. Upselling doesn't have to be automated. If your customers seem to be hitting a wall in their basic plan, send them a personal email or chat to show them your premium offerings might hold up better. And fifth, always choose value-based pricing. Value-based pricing is the gold standard on pricing. If you're still setting your price based on your competitors or your costs, your product will be completely off value from where it needs to be.